the new head of the Supreme National Security Council of Iran, which was announced hours ago. His name is Mohammad Baqir, let me Muhammad Baqir Zulqadr. We know that he is, the former IRGC commander, and he's so prominent in Iran. But outside of Iran, within the English, our audience, mostly from out, from the West, they don't know who he is and what is his position and how close he is to the supreme leader of Iran. What are his policies toward the ongoing war with the United States? What can we learn from his understanding of the current war between Iran and the United States?
If I recall correctly, he studied economics as a young person, then at the University of Tehran, a very good university in economics, probably the best traditionally. I think he also did his MA in economics, and I think then he went and did military college or that sort of thing. So he's highly educated. He fought as a volunteer in the war, and then joined the Guards and fought throughout the war. So he's a war hero. He's had key positions throughout these decades, and more recently, he was at a high-ranking position in the Expediency Council, which deals with all issues, literally, in the country, local and international. So he's a very good choice. Dr. Larijani, of course, is a loss. Uh, he did a fantastic job, but this is also a very good choice. I think it's clear that Iran's policy under Ayatollah Said Mojtaba Khamenei is that of continuity. It is clear that Iran is going to take a tough approach in this war. It will continue to take a tough approach. It's not going to accept any ceasefire because a ceasefire basically means that Trump and Netanyahu will go back to the drawing board, rearm, and start killing kids again. That's not going to happen. So Iran is going to continue down this road and change the facts on the ground, so that the Persian Gulf region in future will never again be a platform to murder Iranians. The regimes, the Arab family dictatorships, if they last, they will have to. They can no longer be allowed to provide bases for conspiring against Iran. As we speak, Nima, this is thing that many people don't know. Qatar, the Emirates, and Saudi Arabia, not only do they provide airspace, and that's what all of them do, and allow them to fire from their territory and use their air bases like Saudi Arabia does and Jordan does, but they also fund the war. These three countries, I don't know about Kuwait and I don't know about Bahrain, but the Emirates, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia fund the war. They pay the United States. They give financial assistance for the war. That's what they've been doing since the beginning. So they have lots of blood on their hands, and they're aggressors. And in future, Iran is going to have to make sure that this never happens again. So the facts on the ground will have to remain as such that Iran's security is secured for the decades to come. Also, Iran will demand reparations, and it will get it from these regimes. This is not the first time that they've betrayed Iran. When after the revolution, when the U.S. encouraged Saddam to invade Iran, to invade our country, they gave him hundreds of billions of dollars to carry out the war. Those chemical weapons that the Germans gave to Saddam to slaughter so many Iranians, and I survived 2 chemical attacks myself, and many didn't survive. The money came from those hundreds of billions of dollars that these countries gave to him. So, and then General Soleimani, who was the great hero who stood up against ISIS and Al Qaeda, how was he murdered? The drone took off from Qatar. So all these regimes are complicit in all the actions of the United States. So Iran will demand reparations, and Iran will demand that its allies are not the aggression does not continue against them. The ceasefires against in Gaza and Lebanon are just fake ceasefires. They've been killing people during this last year on a daily basis. That will have to end. So there are key demands that the Iranians make, and until Iran feels that real change hasn't been brought about, it will continue to fight. Because, as I said, a ceasefire is useless. It will only give the opportunity to Zionists to regroup, to rearm, and to start all over again. So Iran is saying, we're going to finish it. Because 8, 9 months ago, we defeated them. They begged for a ceasefire. Netanyahu, as we all know, he was begging Trump to save him. As Steve Bannon said, I heard him say it twice at least myself. So, even though they were defeated, in less than a year, they started another war against Iran.
Professor Marandi, yesterday Donald Trump suddenly came out and he said, after issuing an ultimatum of 48 hours that he's going to attack the infrastructure, power grids in Iran, then he said he's going to extend that to 5 days because there are negotiations going on between Iran and the United States, and the negotiations are so positive and there's heading. What has happened, and what is your understanding of what Donald Trump is doing?
There are no negotiations, and there are no plans for negotiations. So that is just propaganda. He said this 1 hour before the markets opened, and he extended 5 days. And surprise, surprise, the 5 days ends after the markets close on Friday. So it's clear that he's trying to manipulate the market to keep the price of energy down. But there are no negotiations. Also, I think he's very concerned, fearful that Iran, if he starts targeting Iran's vital infrastructure, notice that no media outlet in the West is screaming that these are crimes against humanity. None of them. His opponents don't say that. And it just shows how corrupt the West is, how corrupt Western media is, how corrupt Western institutions are, how corrupt Western elites are. Just like now in Cuba, they're strangling the entire country, and no one in the Western media cares because they have no humanity. The media is owned and controlled by the Epstein class, and these journalists, they're just tools. Just like the politicians are tools. There's no difference. Whether it's Venezuela or Cuba or Iran or elsewhere, Syria, or Lebanon. In Lebanon, they bomb apartment blocks, bring them down, and the media says they call them Hezbollah strongholds. Why? Because they want to help with the genocide. So the Iranians have not been negotiating. Trump, though, is fearful, perhaps, I'm sure he is, that Iran will retaliate if he does carry out these crimes. And Iran said it will hit back much harder. And Iran has already proven that before, because when the Israelis bombed the Iranian gas infrastructure at the South Pars gas field, Iran hit back, and it was done with full American coordination. When Trump says he didn't know, that's all nonsense. Maybe personally he didn't know because he was playing golf or something, or distracted by some woman. But without a doubt, the Americans knew. So when the Iranians retaliated, as they had promised, and destroyed significant parts of Qatar's gas infrastructure and the Saudi infrastructure and the Emirates gas infrastructure, then he backed down and he said, I didn't know about this. The Israelis won't do it again. But it's quite possible he still will do it. So right now, I think the reason why he extended this for 5 days is to manipulate the prices, but also he's fearful of what the Iranians will do. But there could also be a third element, and this is something that the Iranians take very seriously, and that is he's buying time to conspire against Iran, and he may want to escalate, whether in the Persian Gulf or by striking key civilian vital infrastructure or both. But the Iranians are prepared. The Iranians have said that if he attacks and tries to invade the country, he will be they will defeat him. And if key infrastructure, if the war escalates in any way or form, Iran will escalate. And the irony is that, Nima, if Trump escalates, then that means that the oil and gas infrastructure on the other side of the Persian Gulf will be destroyed. The tankers will be destroyed. So let's say down the road there's a halt in hostilities and Iran achieves its demands. There won't be any oil or gas or petrochemicals or fertilizers. And there won't be any ships to take those non existing products. So it would just lead to an economic depression that would be far worse than 1929. And the world will say Trump did it. It will say the Zionists did it. It'll did it. This is not going to end well for Zionism because the world sees this war as um, Kent, Joe Kent, in his resignation letter and in his interviews have clearly pointed out something that we knew. I mean, you knew this, I knew this, your viewers knew this, but this is an important document for history. That this war was carried out despite Iran not being a threat, despite the fact that Iran was not pursuing a nuclear weapon. This war was carried out because of Zionism. People, when the misery kicks in, they will be saying, they did it to us.
We are witnessing a total shift in the Trump strategy with this war against Iran. Is the war started on this premise of so-called regime change in Iran, and then it's shifting. Yesterday, we've seen how they're attacking the head of Iranian parliament in order somehow not attacking. It was some sort of attack because they wanted to say that he's negotiating behind the scene with Donald Trump. He's doing something different and he's behind it. What are they trying to do? It doesn't seem that they totally understand what's going on in Iran. The unity that is shaping, that has been shaping and is getting stronger.
Yeah, it is possible, although it's so poorly done that it's difficult to be sure that he was trying to divide the Iranians or not. It's not going to work. Ghalibaf, who is a professor at the University of Tehran, I mean, it's very interesting. They always call Iran the mad mullahs and so on. I mean, Ayatollah Khamenei, both the martyr and the current Ayatollah Khamenei, both are high-ranking scholars. And the father knew 4 languages. The son, I know, knows 3. And a philosopher, a thinker, and literature. And I think I discussed this before. But Dr. Larijani, who was martyred, he was a professor at the University of Tehran. He was a professor of Western philosophy. Dr. Ghalibaf is a professor at the University of Tehran. I mean, the leaders in Iran are much more highly educated than Western leaders and much more sophisticated. But Dr. Ghalibaf is a war hero.
Yeah.
He fought as a volunteer when Saddam Hussein invaded the country. And he has the backing of the leader, Ayatollah Sayyid Mujtaba Khamenei. So no one is going to accept that the Trump narrative, someone who lies all the time and who even his tweets are full of grammatical and spelling mistakes. I mean, so this is not going to work, and the Iranians are going to continue until they feel assured that 6 months from now there won't be another war. A year from now there won't be another invasion. A year and a half from now we won't suddenly be waking up to see 200 little girls murdered in another school. That's not going to happen again.
We've learned yesterday that Iran, the United States, and Israel attacked some energy sites in Khorramshahr and Isfahan. How serious was that?
I don't think they were that important. I don't know the details, but I think it may have well, I don't think they were targeting any critical infrastructure.
Mm.
But Iran said that if any strike on Iran's critical infrastructure will be met with a much more severe response. So have no doubt if they did that. I mean, they did strike. They just today. I mean, your viewers should keep this in mind. Just today, they struck the border between Iran and Iraq. They bombed uh, the the government employees who are in charge of regulating the trade on the border.
Mm.
I mean, what sort of monsters do that? And remember, all of these strikes are coordinated. So, customs officers, I mean, what crime have they committed? Or people who are just taking goods and buying and selling goods? And I may have said this on your show last week. I'm not sure. That a friend of mine, his brother-in-law is a businessman. He hired two truck drivers. I mean, the truck drivers own their own trucks to take goods from his city to another city, or vice versa. I don't know. They bombed them and killed them. Two ordinary truck drivers. I mean, this is the viciousness of the Trump regime and the U.S. armed forces. They're a bunch of criminals. These pilots. They're like Zionists. They just slaughter and kill. They don't. They bomb ambulances. They do double. They've done many double tap attacks. I tweeted one of them. I'm sure you saw that woman who survived the first strike and she was filming and then she was killed. And this is evidence. This is clear evidence for people to see. They bomb demonstrations. People on the streets in their millions come out to defend the state, the armed forces, and they fire missiles at them. I was at one last Friday on International Quds Day, a day of solidarity for Palestine, on the last Friday of Ramadan. They bombed it. They killed a woman. They fired missiles at people, and no one budged. People stood their ground. I've never seen such a thing. I've never heard of such a thing in my life. No one there was no stampede. No one ran away, and it was documented. And Western media doesn't show it. Why? Because they're tools of empire. I mean, I don't know if you know. Or I think I told you, but right now there's I think 5 days ago, roughly, there's a verified Twitter account that and with paid partnership. The tweet is still there. They're fundraising $1 million to kidnap me. And of course, that means they'll torture me and kill me. Of course, they'll murder me. Despite the fact that many, many thousands of people have complained, if anyone checks the tweet, it's clear, and so I. Musk refuses to remove it. His employees refuse to remove it. It's open warfare against people. They want to silence the resistance. They want to silence those who criticize the Western Empire. It's not just murdering little girls at school and blaming the Iranians. I mean, what Trump did was he tried to say that Iran fired Tomahawk missiles at their own school. And Western media didn't care. They don't care. And these are the same lies that we hear about Iran for the last 47 years. And just like they send in those terrorists, they arm them, they create an armed uprising, 3,170 people are killed. Then they blame Iran. They brought in the terrorists. They slaughtered hundreds of police officers and volunteers on the streets. One of the police officers, as they were killing him, his wife called him, and these terrorists answered the phone and said, "We're slaughtering your husband. And slaughtering your husband." That's who these monsters were. And then they blame Iran. But young kids, a lot of these young kids who were fooled by the Western narratives, these, some went on the streets and got involved in this. Not like that they carried arms like the terrorists, but they were on the streets misguided. They see what the West is doing. They see what the Israeli regime will do. They see they bomb hospitals and schools, and then they try to blame Iran for, and so they're waking up to reality. So this is how the West works. I can be threatened. No one, not a single Western. I know many journalists, as you know, they've spoken to me during these 20 some days. They follow me. Not a single Western journalist has called me to ask me what's going on. Not a single person condemned this. Not a single person is investigating. No one in Western governments. That's just how it is. But of course, I'm going to continue. I'm going to continue to do what I do. When these young kids on the streets, they are they cannot intimidate them as they're firing when they fire missiles at them. I mean, who am I to go and hide somewhere when these teenagers are standing their ground against empire? So this is the reality of the Western Empire that we're experiencing. It's becoming more ugly, more unpredictable, more ruthless, but it is collapsing.
There are two articles in the Wall Street Journal and New York Times, both pointing out that Saudi Arabia and UAE are somehow, as you've mentioned, not facilitating. They're part of this war. And when do you see that moment Yemenis and Ansarullah join the fight? It doesn't seem that Iran needs them as we talk right now, but do you see any time down the road they're joining the fight? We know that how fragile these governments are in their countries, and that could be some sort of regime change in their countries. I think that's a
Of course.
serious, you know,
Yeah, of course. I mean, Iran didn't start this war. This war was initiated by Trump and his allies, just like the 12-day war. Iran does not want the Persian Gulf to be destroyed. It doesn't want the global economy to collapse. That's what the Americans and the Zionists are bringing about, because these elites in Washington are Israel firsters. They don't care about the U.S. economy. They don't care about the Indian economy or the Chinese economy or the American economy or the Brazilian economy. They couldn't care less. It's all for Zionism and the Israeli regime. They'll sacrifice America for Israel. Iran doesn't want escalation. Iran wants the Persian Gulf to be a center for commerce, trade, where people get better lives through business and trade and interaction. So Iran did not start the war, and Iran is not escalating the war. But if the Trump regime and the Netanyahu regime, and they're one and the same, there's no difference. If they escalate, Iran will escalate much further. And they've already proven this. When they struck the gas installations, the Iranians said, we'll strike back much harder. And they did. And there's a big possibility that they will escalate soon, whether it's targeting Iran's critical infrastructure, crime against humanity, or whether it's expanding the war and bringing in Marines. Either way, then Iran will escalate in a much bigger way than the US and the Israeli regime escalate. And they will destroy those assets, those oil and gas assets, and electrical power plants on the other side of the Persian Gulf. And then that's the end of Trump's presidency, because we'll go into global economic depression. They will not be able to sustain the war. People in the United States will be up in arms. He will fail. I mean, it will come at a great cost, obviously, to the world, to Iran, but he will fail. So hopefully he will be convinced to go down a sane path, but he's not very sane or stable. So who knows? But Yemen, there's no need for them to engage now, because so far the war has failed. But if it escalates, the escalation can lead to Yemen being directly involved. They've already said they're going to get involved. And the Iraqis are engaged, but they can go far further. Iraqis can sweep into the Arabian Peninsula. They can take Kuwait in a day, and we'll support them. They can go down south, and Yemen can go deep inside what is today called Saudi Arabia. I mean, after all, it's named after a family. Why would, do you think the Saudi people are going to sacrifice themselves for a country that's named after a family? So, I mean, the Emirates is like 1 million passport holders. What are they going to do? Saudi Arabia has already lost the war against Yemen, even though they had the entire region behind them. and the world. 7 years of genocidal uh, war against Yemen. The Americans blocked the Red Sea to impose starvation. The entire region, including Qatar and Turkey, were part of the genocide until Saudi Arabia and the Emirates turned against Qatar, and then Qatar tilted away, and so did Erdogan. But they had the entire world behind them, and ultimately, after 7 years, the Yemenis forced them to kneel, and they accepted a ceasefire after Yemen started destroying their key oil installations. Saudi Arabia and the other Arab regimes can no longer export oil from the Persian Gulf or gas. And the Emirates cannot export gas from outside the Persian Gulf. There's only Saudi oil that is going through pipelines to the Red Sea. That can be stopped at any moment. At any moment. And then the oil crisis is going to get much worse, even though it's getting worse by the day, because this shortage is accumulating. It's getting worse and worse. People, I mean, they're using um, um, different means to like it's like aspirin, but it's getting worse, and they're not dealing with the problem as they should. And if they escalate, it's going to get far worse. So Saudi Arabia is very vulnerable. If they want to escalate, they will bring collapse upon themselves, because right now Iran is showing restraint. Again, Iran did not start the war. Iran and its allies did not want this war. But if the other side escalates, this side will escalate much further. And if the Saudi Arabia and the Emirates push harder, then that gives Iran the opportunity, and its allies the opportunity, to deal with them in a very different way.